For most of our lives, we've been told a pretty straightforward story about our past. It usually starts about 6,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, where the first great cities popped up. This was the cradle of civilization, we learned, where writing, laws, and massive buildings all began. This has been the standard timeline, the foundation for how we understand ancient history. But what if that foundation has some serious cracks? What if there's evidence that pushes the start of civilization back, not by a few hundred years, but by thousands? All over the world, hidden under hills or sunk beneath the sea, there are clues to a chapter of the human story we never knew existed. These are sites so old and so surprisingly advanced that they just don't fit the neat timeline we were given. They're forcing a lot of people to rethink the very first chapter of our story, the temple before its time. First, let's head to the hills of southeastern Turkey, to a place that has completely changed our view of the Stone Age. It's called Göbekli Tepe, or Belly Hill. For a long time, this mound was known to archaeologists, but was largely overlooked. Then, in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt started digging, and what he found would rewrite prehistory. The conventional thinking for this era was that people were living in small, nomadic groups of hunter-gatherers. Smart and resourceful, for sure, but not capable of massive, organized construction projects. The old theory was that agriculture came first. People started farming, then they settled down, and only then did complex society, religion, and huge temples emerge. Göbekli Tepe turns that idea on its head. Schmidt's team uncovered a huge complex of massive, T-shaped limestone pillars set in large circles. Some of these pillars are over 18 feet tall and weigh as much as 50 tons, and they're covered in these incredible detailed carvings of animals like lions, snakes, and vultures, all made with an artistic skill that's just stunning for how old it is. And how old is it? Dating shows Göbekli Tepe was built around 9600 BCE. That's not just ancient, it feels almost impossible. It's more than 6,000 years older than Stonehenge and 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramid. It was built by people who didn't have pottery, writing, or the wheel. Crucially, it was built before there was any evidence of farming or domesticated animals in the area. This presents a huge puzzle. This was supposedly built by simple hunter-gatherers, but the size of this place suggests a large coordinated workforce, a powerful shared belief system, and some serious architectural planning. Some researchers even believe the builders used complex geometry to lay out the whole site as one giant unified project, though that idea is still being debated. The existence of Göbekli Tepe suggests the story of civilization might have happened in reverse. What if the powerful shared belief that led to building this temple came first? Is it possible that the need to feed the hundreds of workers it took to build this place was what actually kickstarted the invention of farming? Did complex religion spark civilization instead of the other way around? Göbekli Tepe proves that human society was far more complex far earlier than we ever imagined. And it leaves us with a huge question. Who were these people and where did they go? The Sphinx, a riddle in stone and water. From a temple that's far older than it should be, we go to a monument whose age is one of the biggest debates in archaeology, the Great Sphinx of Giza. You can't get more iconic than this. For 2 centuries, the official story from Egyptologists has been that the Sphinx was carved around 2500 BCE for the pharaoh Khafra. They say, the face is his, and his pyramid is right behind it. This is the version you'll find in almost every textbook. But in the 1990s, a geologist named Dr. Robert Schoch looked at something everyone else had either missed or explained away. He wasn't looking at the face, he was looking at the rock itself, and specifically the erosion on it. Schoch noticed that the body of the Sphinx and the walls of the pit it was carved from have a unique kind of weathering. Instead of the horizontal, wind-swept lines you'd expect in a desert, he saw deep vertical cracks and a rounded, rolling look. To a geologist, that's a classic sign of water erosion, the kind caused by a lot of rain washing over the stone for a very long time. Here's where the official timeline hits a snag. The Giza Plateau has been an extremely dry desert for the last 5,000 years. To get the kind of rain needed to cause that erosion, you'd have to go back much further, to a time when the Sahara was actually a green savanna. That period ended thousands of years before Khafre's reign. Based on this, Schoch proposed that the Sphinx must have been carved much earlier, maybe before 5000 BCE. It is important to be clear, this idea is not accepted by mainstream Egyptologists and is rejected by most geologists. They argue that the weathering can be explained by other factors, like the poor quality of the limestone, occasional flash floods, or even heavy morning dew. They also make a very strong point. There is no other archaeological evidence from that region, no pottery, no tools, no sign of a settlement, of a culture that could have created such a massive monument that early. So you have this fascinating but very controversial theory. Could the head have been recarved by Khafre on a much older body that had already been sitting in the rain for millennia? The riddle of the Sphinx, it seems, isn't just about whose face is on it, but how old the stone itself really is. We're digging into puzzles that are still being fiercely debated. If you think these kinds of historical questions are as cool as we do, and you like challenging the story we've all been told, go ahead and subscribe and ring that notification bell. We have so much more of the past to explore, and you don't want to miss it. The Yonaguni Monument, a city under the sea? For our last stop, we're going halfway around the world, diving under the waves off the coast of Japan's southern islands. In 1986, a diver looking for sharks stumbled onto something that nobody can easily explain: a massive underwater rock formation called the Yonaguni Monument. The structure is enormous, about 165 feet long and 65 feet wide, and it looks like a huge terraced pyramid rising from the seafloor. It seems to have giant flat platforms, sharp 90-degree angles, and what look an awful lot like giant stairs. Those who believe it's man-made, like marine geologist Masaki Kimura, who has studied it for years, point to features they say just can't be natural. They see what look like walls, a stadium, and even a formation they've nicknamed the Turtle. If this thing is artificial, its age is incredible. To have been built on dry land, it would have to be from before the end of the last ice age, when melting glaciers caused the sea levels to rise. That would place its construction at least 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, making it a contemporary of Göbekli Tepe. However, just like the Sphinx, this is a huge point of contention. The overwhelming majority of geologists and archaeologists are convinced Yonaguni is an entirely natural formation. They point out that the type of sandstone in the area naturally breaks along very straight lines, and that the region is prone to earthquakes. They argue that powerful ocean currents and tectonic shifts are perfectly capable of creating something that just looks man-made. Even Robert Schoch, the geologist from the Sphinx theory, believes this one is natural. No definitive tools or human artifacts have ever been found on the site, which leaves the whole debate in a stalemate. So, what is it? A bizarre and incredible trick of nature? Or are we looking at the submerged ruins of a lost civilization, a kind of Japanese Atlantis? Without that one piece of undeniable proof, the Yonaguni Monument remains one of the world's most visually stunning mysteries. Conclusion. So, today we've looked at a temple apparently built by hunter-gatherers, thousands of years before cities were supposed to exist. We've seen how the stone of a world-famous monument might tell a different story than our history books. And we've explored what could be a pyramid lost to the ocean. These sites, whether they're accepted by science like Göbekli Tepe or remain on the fringe like Yonaguni, all challenge us to keep an open mind about our past. They show us that history isn't just a dusty book on a shelf, it's a live investigation. New pieces of the puzzle are found all the time, and they force us to tweak and reconsider the story of who we are and where we came from. That story isn't finished. In fact, it feels like we might have only just found the preface. What do you think? Which of these sites is the most convincing challenge to the mainstream timeline? Let us know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching.